Our speaker for tonight is someone that our vet and animal science teacher, Miss Caitlin Farmer, spoke highly of, and I knew I wanted to explore her platform in more detail. So I want to introduce Miss Kristina Villa. She is the co-executive director of the Farmers Land Trust. She's a farmer, a communicator, a community coordinator who believes that our connection to the soil is directly related to the health of our bodies, economy, and society. With over a decade of farming, communication, and fundraising experience, Kristina enjoys her skill sets to share photos, stories, and information in engaging ways, which help to inspire change in human habits and mindsets, causing the food system, climate, and overall well-being of the world to improve. Kristina has spent the last several years of her professional career saving farmland from development and securing it in nonprofit land-holding structures that give farmers, stewards, and ranchers long-term and affordable access and tenure to it. Miss Kristina Villa.
Thank you. What an honor. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Kristina Villa, and I am the co-executive director of the Farmers Land Trust. I am also a farmer in Middle Tennessee. My partner and I don't own the land we farm on. Most farmers in this country don't, but we grow vegetables using organic and biodynamic methods, and we sell to restaurants, grocery stores, and collaborate with other CSAs to provide nourishing food to communities all across the state. We also have a small herd of dairy cows, about 20, and we hand milk about 2 per season, supplying raw milk to the people around us who value it just as much as we do. But I wasn't always a farmer. I didn't grow up farming. I grew up hungry. In the outskirts of Atlanta, in an urban area, in a mostly black and brown area, I grew up in a food insecure household, where the only connection to land and nature that I had was a sewer runoff ditch that ran next to the apartments I lived in that had just a few trees around it. My memories from that time are of my little sister's hungry faces, of the excitement and exuberance that came along with getting to go to a food bank, pick out stale bread, and then take it home and devour it, and of the way that the sun shone through those few trees onto that brown, oily water in the sewer runoff ditch. What I also remember from that time is wanting to be a superhero, specifically a Power Ranger. I was sure I was going to be the next generation Pink Power Ranger once the existing Pink Power Ranger aged out and retired. I was going to know gymnastics, and I was going to incorporate it into my karate. I was going to be brave. I was going to be strong. And I was going to kick bad guy booty. When I turned 11, I realized that becoming a Power Ranger was probably not going to happen, so I decided on a more practical, real-life career path. So at that time, I was super sure I was going to be a police officer. I was going to protect people. I was going to stand up for the people who needed someone to stand up for them. One of the good guys taking on the bad guys. When I turned 18, I started volunteering in food banks, soup kitchens, and with other emergency food relief organizations. And I started spending my free time fundraising to bring food to the people who were hungry. I became very interested in this food paradigm that we are all living in. Everywhere I looked, I saw inequities and disparities that were a direct result of lack of access to food. I saw that lack of access to nourishing food is a system that perpetuates poverty and that oppresses people. I thought that these emergency food relief organizations were so critical in that moment of hunger for these men, women, and children who do not get to eat because they don't have money to buy food. But I wondered, how can we fix the system that is keeping people hungry? It was then that I realized that food could be, and really was, the basis of peace. It was then that I realized that the most radical thing I could do was to opt out of a food system that was not serving me and to grow my own food and to share it with other people. So I started a garden. And it was really bad. No, I mean, it was good. It was good. I didn't know what I was doing. So I did a lot of things that I am not proud of, but it was great. In that very small garden, I grew so much food. I had so much food that I was bringing it to the food bank. I was sharing it with my neighbors. I was learning to cook, and the abundance was thrilling. That garden also gave me something else that I had never had before. The most intimate connection with nature that I had ever experienced. I mean, I had been hiking. I had seen beautiful sunrises and beautiful sunsets and basked in the fall breeze as leaves fell around me, but I had never experienced anything like this before. Connecting with the plants and hearing their songs as I tended them filled me with a joy and spiritual bliss that took me to dimensions previously unknown to me. I had never been this high on life before, and I couldn't stop. But it wasn't enough. I needed to learn how to grow a ton of food. I needed to learn how to grow so much food that I could share it with so many other people and teach so many other people how to do it too. I needed to learn how to farm. So as nervous as I was to take a big risk and make a big move, I moved to the oldest and largest organic farm in the state of Tennessee, where Jeff Poppin, the Barefoot Farmer, taught me everything I know about how to grow food and how to eat and live like a farmer. At that time, I thought, 1 year, that's all I need. 1 year, and I'll know everything there is to know about farming. I'll just start a farm. Well, 8 years later, after meeting my husband, who is a magical caretaker and farmer himself, I finally knew how to farm. My husband and I could farm. We could pump so much food out of those gardens while building soil, while feeding community, but we couldn't afford land. We were never going to be able to afford to buy a farm. It was then that I was opened up to all of the inequities and disparities around land access, ownership, and tenure in this country. It was then that I realized it's not food that is the basis of peace. Land. How can people grow food for themselves if they don't have access to land? Today, I come to you as a farmer and as a land justice advocate. At Villa Acres, we build soil and heal ecosystems by using regenerative agriculture practices. We grow wholesome, nourishing food for local communities, always giving back to local food banks to help those in need of hunger. At the Farmers Land Trust, we protect land. We get to help Black, Indigenous, and other people of color get secure, affordable, equitable access and tenure to land, helping to heal the historic and systematic harms that have been and that continue to be inflicted upon them. I get to help aging, retiring farmers transition their land to the next generation of farmers who cannot afford that land, but who want to grow food using ecologically sound methods. I grew up to be a superhero. I think back to that little girl practicing roundhouse kicks and somersaults in the grass on hot days, and I think she would be proud of who she grew up to be. This dream of growing up to be a superhero is not unique to me. Research shows that most children fantasize about growing up to become superheroes, which means that most of you this room probably thought you were going to grow up to be superheroes too. I want you to think back to being that little kid. When you so firmly believed that you were going to be a superhero. When you pretended to be one. When you practiced to be one. When you imagined yourself as that superhero. Do you remember that feeling? It's still in there. That little person is still in you right now. And will be for the rest of today and tomorrow and into the future on the career path that you've chosen. We can hold on to that deep desire to be a superhero. And we can choose justness, even in the mundane. We can choose compassion, even if it means going out of our way. We can choose empathy, even when it hasn't been earned. We can choose strength, even when it isn't required of us. We can choose bravery in the face of those in charge of us. And most importantly, we can choose courage to stand up for what is right, no matter how big or how small. What I've learned in my 33 years here on Earth is that the difference between good and bad and right and wrong is not always as obvious as comic books and TV shows and movies make it seem. I've learned that it isn't always as clear how or when violence and harm and oppression are happening to people, when it isn't one singular, mean, ugly, scary villain threatening to take over the world, and instead it's systems, structures, and paradigms that have been upheld that are the ones causing the real harm. With every single moment of time, we are given opportunities. What we do with those opportunities is up to us. We can choose to accept the status quo, follow the motions, be ushered along passively, flowing with the current. Or we can choose to take action, no matter how big or how small, that positively impacts the lives of the people around you and of our larger global communities. Some of you in this room are going to go on to be farmers. Some of you, welders. Some of you, cosmetologists. Some of you have different career paths, and some of you in this room are already well out of school and into your life and career. But no matter where you are or where you are going, we all have the opportunity to be superheroes within our work and within our daily lives. And my hope for you all is that you will be.